Recording.
Call the Wilmer City Council meeting to order for Monday, September 19th. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Here.
Osmus. Here. Butterfield.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Osk.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Nelson. Here. 9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda as has been presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion does carry. This evening, we have 2 proclamations before we get into the business of the council that I'd like to present. The first proclamation is for the Bethesda day services. And proclamation from the city of Wilmer, whereas in 1897, Bethesda began its long history of community service as an orphanage in Lamberton, Minnesota. And whereas in 1905, Bethesda moved to Candioi County, north of Wilmer, near Eagle Lake Lutheran Church, where Bethesda continued to serve the needs of children and expanded services to older adults, and that whereas, believing that everyone should be taken care of, Bethesda opened Heritage Center in 1950 and expanded the campus known as Pleasant View in 1970. They combined both campuses in 2016, and whereas Bethesda continues its mission statement, serving others together in faith, community, and life, operating the 6th largest skilled nursing facility in the state and largest rural facility, touching nearly 1,000 adults each day and employing more than 500 people in the community, and they are supported by 23 area churches. And now I therefore be it resolved, I, Marv Calvin, Mayor of the City of Wilmer, do hereby proclaim September 25th, 2022 as Bethesda Day, honoring Bethesda's 125th anniversary serving the Wilmer community. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the official seal of the City of Wilmer this 25th day of September 2022. And for the council's information, if you have not yet received an invitation to their anniversary, that will be on September 25th, if you haven't received that invitation yet. And they are asking the council to be in attendance at that. So Bethesda, thank you for the work you do in our community. You are truly an asset to our community, and we are very glad that you chose Wilmer to locate your facility. You guys do great work. My next one is a proclamation honoring direct support professionals within our area. Our direct support professionals provide immediate care to those that need that care, whether it be physical, emotional, or any type of care that they receive. The request for this proclamation came from Supportive Lifestyles, and I am pleased to offer this proclamation as well. Whereas 1 in 10 Minnesotans live with a disability, and whereas direct support individuals are the primary providers of community-based long-term services for those tens of thousands of individuals with disabilities in Minnesota, and whereas direct support professionals have enormous skills and capacity to impact the morale, health, and boost overall well-being of peoples with disability, providing essential support to individuals with disabilities to stay connected to family, friends, coworkers, and the community, helping them to define and live a quality life. And whereas direct support personnel have a keen understanding of the daily needs, challenges, and opportunities for people with disabilities and provide person-centered practices that honor and respect individuals with disabilities they serve. And now therefore be it resolved, I, Marv Calvin, Mayor and members of the City Council of Wilmer, do recognize and hereby proclaim the week of September 11th through 17th, 2022 as Direct Support Professional Recognition Week. I witness hereof and have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the city of Wilmer this 19th day of September 2022. It should be pointed out that this is being done after the event happened because they contacted me and we'd already had our council meeting, our last council meeting. They contacted me after that, so that's why we're doing it after the event. Some things I think also that's important for the council and our public that are watching to understand is that these direct care professionals worked through COVID. They didn't take time off. They didn't get the government assistance that other employees got when they took time off. They were at work every day unless they were sick themselves. The service they provided to our most vulnerable people in our community is really something that we really should recognize them for. They really do really great work. Also, they requested that the council consider doing a proclamation the week of in the future. And I will be passing that request on to staff and also to the new mayor when that person is elected, that they would like to see this happen. I'd like to give a special thanks to Ms. Oakes as she contacted me for this and gave me the information. And I received text messages, phone calls, emails from a number of people in the direct support professionals within our community, thanking the council for the support that you guys have shown to them through this tough time. So they are very grateful for the work that you guys have done and how you have supported them through the years. So with that, I'll move on to the next agenda item. Consent items, Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of September 6th, Wilmer Municipal Utilities Board minutes of September 16th, Planning Commission minutes of August 3rd and 17th, accounts payable report for August 30th through September 12th, a consideration of a resolution appointing election judges for the 2022 general election, consideration of resolution declaring surplus equipment and authorizing sale at public auction, consideration of the Blizzard LLC on-sale wine and on-sale intoxicating 3.2 or 3.2 liquor licenses, an application for appointment to the Airport Commission of John Hafner, council's information, the building report for August of 2022, and an application for appointment to the Wilmer Municipal Utilities Commission of John Kennedy.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. I'd like to pull item number 5. I'm sorry, item number F. So with the exception of item number F, roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes. Next is the consideration of the resolution declaring surplus equipment and authorizing sale at public auction. Last year when this happened, I had requested that we look at vendors who would be able to do like online auction. We never heard back from that information on what you found out. So what was found out when you looked into doing that?
Well, most of the vehicles that are on the auction this year are ones that are forfeited vehicles or they're not in the best of shape for running. So it would cost more to advertise online than to have our current auction.
It doesn't cost anything to do it online. You hire a company to do it.
You're paying a percentage to them.
Okay, I'll, Councilmember Fager, if you want to move it forward.
I just have a
Go ahead.
question. So the auctioneer, they usually provide that service. They do now. So what auctioneer is doing it this year? Is it Tim Johnson again?
We will do the same, Tim Johnson with Mark Zemer. Mhm.
Okay, because I know they do it online too.
They will advertise, yes. They put the list of the vehicles that we have or our sale bill, they put that on their online.
But during the auction, they have a live auction. You can call in if you can't.
True,
make it.
true.
They don't charge extra for that, do they?
No, they do not.
Okay, is that what you were talking about, Mr. Mayor?
No, I was talking about like K-bid or something like that. A lot of cities have gone to that. When municipal utilities did that, they had the amount of money that they got for their surplus property was way in excess of what they would have gotten had they sold it. And so I've asked this for the last 2 years to have us to look at this. And, I mean, I didn't know that we paid that. I always thought that fee was paid by the buyer. I know other cities do their forfeited vehicles. I mean, you see them up all the time on eBay. Jack's of Benson does it all the time. There's a guy over in Litchfield that does it. There's a guy out in Pennock that does it. I know I've sold stuff on there. They never charge me anything. But maybe it's because of the city, they do it different. I don't know. So it's just frustrating because we have an opportunity to bring in more money, and we always take the easy way out.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we do advertise online for our larger equipment, things that are in very good condition. So those are advertised through an online bidding. All of our heavy equipment.
Councilman Rasmus.
I believe in that conversation that we've had before, the sheriff's office, I know, does their forfeited vehicles online. Did we check with them to see how they're doing it and if they've had success?
I did not. I don't know, Chief Felt, did you have any conversations with them?
In speaking with them, they no longer can do those online with the particular vendor that they were working with before. So actually, some of their forfeited vehicles are going to be on this auction also.
Okay.
I'll move to file the minutes.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to file the minutes, or consider the resolution declaring surplus equipment and authorizing the sale of public auction. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
Open forum, we have no one.
No, we do not.
Okay, next we have a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing for the sale of city-owned land to Clean Chickens and Company. Mr. Walker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So tonight is the sale of public land to Clean Chickens. So just for a reminder for everybody, this is for 2 parcels in the 4th edition of the industrial park. This was, the price suggested was the full price recommended by council for the 4.28 acres. I think that's one of the amendments that we need to make to the document. The listed amount, I think in the document, I think is 2.28, and it needs to be corrected to 4.28. Other than that, everything from before, this is just the formality, selling city land to then open it for Clean Chickens to apply for a plan review to eventually open a plant. This does not approve any plans tonight. Tonight is not the consideration of the plans. Tonight is just for the sale of city land. And so as a refresher, so the full price is roughly $65,000, and the applicants intend to make improvements of $1.1 million to the facility and would like to break ground next year. And they would also be paying a minimum wage of $18 an hour out at their facility. And this would be, I know like there's been a lot of confusion about Clean Chickens and thinking that this is a chicken processing plant. This is not. This is a small livestock. This is a halal facility that will be processing goats. I know there's been like a lot of confusion just because of the name, but eventually Clean Chickens will transition over to Happy Halal, and this will be a halal processing facility. So with that, I turn it back over to you, Mayor Calvin.
Okay, but I thought in one of the presentations that you made to us in the past that you said that they would be in the future processing sheep, chickens, goats, and ducks. in the future?
No. So they want to build it to where they can process cattle if that ever becomes an option, but they don't have any intentions to do that. I think Mr. Worski and his wife are here tonight, Greg and Becky, to answer any questions about what their intentions are to provide clarity for anyone.
So they're not going to do chickens, they're not going to do ducks, they're not going to do goats ever.
So they are going to do goats, and so currently,
Sorry,
yeah.
geese.
Yes. So currently they are a mobile chicken processing unit, and they're one of the only USDA certified mobile chicken processing units in the country. And so what that they go to the farm sites and they process animals on site. It has to do with stress. It's like a whole scientific thing behind it. And so it's very unique. But what they're doing is moving into a brick and mortar facility where they would like to process goats, not birds. I know there's been like a lot of concerns about that. They are interested in processing halal goat meat and lamb.
Okay, so I'm thinking back when you originally presented this to us and you had a cut sheet where it explained the prices.
Mm-hmm.
And on that cut sheet, it had chickens, ducks, and geese.
Correct. And that is out of their mobile processing unit. That is not the intentions for their brick and mortar facility. And so that is their mobile processing unit that travels all over the state. Maybe shortchange, they may travel further than that, but they travel all over the state to different farms to process birds on site. That is not what the brick and mortar facility is for. The brick and mortar facility is for goats.
Okay. Okay, this is a public hearing. At this point, if there's members of the public who wish to speak, so if the applicant wanted to speak, this would be your time if you wanted to speak. If you choose not to speak, that's fine as well, but if you'd like to speak, this is your time.
My name's Greg Werschke with Clean Chickens and Company. Our purpose here is to process goats and lamb at the facility in Wilmer, halal, and then market across the upper Midwest. We'd be the only facility. The closest facility would be Chicago, and we have a lot of East African community members that are looking for halal meat. So that's what our intent is.
Okay, so your intent is not to do chickens, ducks, and geese
No,
at that facility?
we may bring duck. We don't do ducks and geese. We may bring dead chickens that have already been processed with a USDA stamp into the facility to cut up to resell.
But they would already been
Dead.
processed?
Yeah, I mean, that would be,
Slaughtered and inspected.
it would be almost, I mean, going through the last avian flu epidemic, I don't want to bring chickens around. I want to do it all on the farm. That's all contained on that farm, and then we'll go to the next farm. And we
That's
clean
the
up.
phone, that's the phone calls I received all day today.
All day, I'm sorry, sir.
And I think the confusion came because the original information that we had your cut sheet on it.
Right.
I think
And
that's where
we-
the confusion
yeah.
came from.
Yeah, we process on the farm. We leave everything at the farm. We even leave the chickens at the farm at this point. What we want to do is take some of those value-added producers to have that ability to have that chicken cut up, packaged, similar to the store, and then sold.
Okay, thank you.
That's honestly because,
Looks like, it sounds like a good project.
yeah,
Anybody else here who wishes to speak to the question?
For the record, we've got about 1,400 birds, approximately 5 pounds each. So you're looking at about 76,000 pounds of meat, which is pretty minute. That would just be doing the further processing, which is what Greg was talking about, which is just your cutting and wrapping. It's not ready to eat, and it's not slaughtering. It's all inspected.
Okay. So one other question I have for you guys. Do you follow the same regulations by the Department of Ag as far as if you would come across a flock that did have avian influenza?
yes, we've been working on this problem since last January, getting our units in compliance with the Department of Ag and the USDA, that we're safely moving in between zones, that we don't move into a zone where avian influenza has broken out. And then in addition, we've let units rest for 24 hours in between processing dates so that any microbes that may be on that unit are gone, so that we're not spreading it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Council, what are your wishes?
Have to close the hearing.
Are we going to close it?
Isn't it open?
Yeah, but I'm just wanting to make sure you guys are ready for me to close it. So if I close it, we don't reopen it. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Mr. Walker, so I have a few questions then. Have you talked with our waste treatment superintendent? How is this going to affect our facility?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. So initially when we had this conversation about the amount of gallons of water that they intend to use, they thought it was incorrect just because of the sheer volume of other facilities. But due to the scale and the type of animal that they'll be processing, they intend to only use 1,500 gallons of water a day, and that's at full tilt. They plan to open up at 50% capacity, and at full tilt, it's going to be 1,500 gallons of water a day. And the superintendent of the wastewater said that is a blip. That does not matter to us. We are used to dealing with 1,500 gallons a minute. So for them, totally irrelevant. That's why they thought it was, I mean, just the magnitude of it, they thought it was incorrect. But I checked with Greg and Becky Worski, and they verified that that is indeed the correct number. And wastewater said that that's not a problem at all.
That's for the time being. I think Mr. Bach said they're going to start out small when he was on open mic and then expand later. So what is later? 2 years, 3 years, 6 months later? And then what about the blood and the guts and the grease that goes down the drain?
So there is pretreatment that is required, and as long as pretreatment is done on site for the fog, so the fat oils and gas and fat oils, I forget what the other one stands for. I think it's gases.
Fat
but-
oils and grease.
There we go, fat oils and grease. So as long as those things are pre-treated on site, that won't be an issue. So I think once we get to a place where their capacity extends beyond, or I guess like starts to register as far as wastewater, there will be further conversations, and there'll have to be an SIU. And so there are procedures in place for that expansion. But as of right now, that's not on the horizon.
So pre-treatment is a requirement.
Pre-treatment, yep.
They
Yep.
know that. then.
Yep, pre-treatment is a requirement.
Because when we got our new plant, Jenny O didn't think they had to pre-treat. And
Nope, that will,
'cause I don't want to deal with an issue like we've had for 40 years in Wilmer.
Yep, nope. That will be a part of the discussions. Like I said, like a part of like the plan review. There's a lot of administrative review and kind of going a lot of behind the scenes before it even makes it to the planning commission to talk with all of the various departments and their interests and their concerns concerning the project. And so that will be one of them, and kind of making sure that there is a commitment to pre-treat on site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to close the meeting? Okay, I'll close the public hearing, bring it to the council table. Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance authorizing the sale of land to Clean Chickens and Company LLC and assign it a number and publish ordinance.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Additional comments or questions? Okay, Mr. Walker, the last time that you were together, and I believe this goes into Councilmember Fagerly's lead-in question, I had a call from the Candido County Humane Society this afternoon, and they're concerned about odor with the close proximity to the shelter, if there will be any odors coming out of the facility. I assured them that we had been told there would be no odors, but so that was a question from the public that they asked me in regards to that. So do we have an answer for that?
Yep. So like we discussed kind of prior, so how processing goes, there is a room for all of like the inedibles, and so that's like the guts and like the hides, et cetera, et cetera. And so those things will be stored in a room at 40 degrees, and at 40 degrees, there is no smell. It's not possible for microbes to grow. And then there also will be trucks to remove these, like to remove the offal as well. And so that's the technical term for it. So that has been accounted for. The facility will be chilled, the room will be chilled to a point to where microbes cannot grow and no smell will be produced. And there will also be, I feel like twice a week, I think, is what has been proposed for truck pickup to remove the offal from site. So that should prevent any smells from coming, and I think that will be something in the conditional use permit about the smell nuisance being a condition with this use.
Okay, sounds good. And then my other concern is that the processing of fowl, like I mentioned earlier, turkeys, ducks, and geese. And so when it comes back in front of us again, when we go to approve the process, we probably should make sure that it's spelled out in there that no live slaughter of those particular animal species.
That will be in the conditional use then.
Okay, that's what I would like to see. I don't know if the council wants to see it there or not, but that's what I would like to see done, so. Okay, any other council members have any questions? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the sale of the city-owned land to Clean Chickens. Did you have that amount? It was 64 what?
65.3, it's at the bottom of the card.
There we go.
It's at the bottom of the card.
Yep. Yeah, $65,000, $65,390.90. There we go.
Okay,
Sorry, my dog chewed my glasses. So I got my riding glasses. Can't read it.
okay. And then on the conditional use then, are you also going to put in there that they have to pay a minimum of $18 an hour?
That's just something that we've discussed. I don't think that'll be in there. I don't think we can mandate wages in the conditional use permit. But that's just something that had been discussed prior when we initially were talking about like the land write down program, and then it was discussed that was something that council had decided to do away with. So I think that is the intention.
Okay. Okay, so, so sale of city-owned land to Clean Chickens and Company, LLC, in the amount of $65,300.90. Adopt, assign a number, and publish. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
No,
Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
That resolution passes. Next, I would like the council to consider approving the purchase agreement.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the purchase agreement with Clean Chickens and Company, LLC, and authorizing the mayor and administrator to execute the purchase agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
no,
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
That resolution passes as well. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to you breaking ground, and it sounds like a great project for Wilmer. And I know the need is great here in our region, and it's nice to see the private industry stepping up to the plate to meet that need, address that need, and then have that locally produced is even a bigger win. So thank you very much for all the work you've done. I know you guys have been here for a long time, and you've worked really hard, and we appreciate you sticking with us and to the very end. So next, we just have to get the conditional use, and I'm sure that staff is well on their way of getting that in front of us as well. So thank you very much for being here. Appreciate that. Next, we have a public hearing for the sale of city-owned land to Wilmer Poultry. I'll open that public hearing.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So this is for the expansion of the Wilmer Poultry site just east of the wastewater treatment plant, and so this is for the additional 4.2 acres onto the site. And so, like we discussed in the past, that this expansion of Wilmer Poultry will be their final expansion at the site. If they were to expand anymore, they would have to buy more land in another location. They would not to expand at this exact location. And then also, I talked with the wastewater, and that their plans are to, if they do expand, it will be to expand to the north and to the west, not to the east. And so this expansion will not cause any conflict for them, and it will not hinder any plans that they may have in the future of serving in the city. And then also, finally, I know there were some concerns about how this expansion would be impacted by the gun range down there, and Mr. Huizinga Just said that if the wind blows super, super hard, they may get some shells, but they're not concerned about it at all. Shouldn't affect the building, shouldn't affect people's cars that are parked out there either. So that is, so with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, and so he was willing to do the hold harmless again, Mr. Huizenga?
Yep.
Like we did last time? Okay. Anybody from the public that wishes to speak to this issue? Council, are you ready for me to close the meeting? Okay, we'll try it again. I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it to the council table. Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance authorizing the sale of land to Wilmer Poultry and assign it a number and publish the ordinance.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to consider the sale of city-owned land to Wilmer Poultry, adopt an ordinance authorizing the sale to Wilmer Poultry, assign it a number, and publish it. Council, what discussion? Councilmember O'Brien.
I know you mentioned the trap range, and they said that they would have no issues with the pellets bouncing off of their vehicles or whatever. Would this be in writing?
It was last time,
It was last time?
yes.
Okay, so
Mr.
then
Scott?
it will be?
Mayor, members of the council, paragraph 14 of the purchase agreement includes a waiver and assumption of the risk by the buyer for that eventuality.
All right, good.
Additional comments or questions? And the purchase agreement on that was $50,000. So we have a motion that's been made, seconded, to adopt the ordinance, assign it a number, and publish the ordinance. Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Plowman. Aye. Nelson. Aye. Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is to approve a purchase agreement, the amount of $50,000 for the sale of city land, 4.2 acres, for the expansion of Wilmer Poultry.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the purchase agreement with Wilmer Poultry in the amount of $50,000 for the sale of city land, 4.2 acres. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. We're on a roll. Public hearing considering an ordinance rezoning Unique Opportunities property from Ag to R5. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. All right. Yep. So this has kind of been working its way through for a while. So this has been the rezoning of the land. I think it's 1400 Lakeland Drive, northeast. And originally the property was zoned ag, and Unique Opportunities is proposing to rezone it to R5, which is our highest density. They're proposing 3 72-unit apartment buildings for a grand total of 216 apartment units. And so this project is really split into 2 different sections. There's the land use section, which is the rezone falls under, and then there's also the TIF section, which is more the financial question on the other side of this. And so this is for the land use purposes. And so just for full disclosure with the rezone, so once this property is rezoned from ag to R5, there are ag deferred assessments that will come due. Unique Opportunities applicant is aware of these deferred assessments, and they have made arrangements to pay them. But so this has already been approved by the Planning Commission. We've already reviewed the surrounding area. With the tech campus being to the north, there is an R4 property to the north with the trailer park just to the immediate north that abuts this property. R2 to the south, this is a PUD in Trentwood Estates. There are single-family homes over there, and there's other R3 properties over there as well. So there are group homes. There are group homes for the elderly. There are group homes for the youth over there. So, I mean, it's a very vibrant community just as far as like the number of uses and the various housing topologies that exist in that area. And then I think also the future anticipated growth from the Midwest Tech campus as well. Also being calculated into the decisions of rezoning this property from Ag to R5. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you for any questions.
Thank you. Any members of the public who wish to speak in regards to the rezone of 1400 Lakeland Drive Northeast from Ag to R5? Just a minute.
Sorry. Yeah, so I guess for anybody who wants to speak at the public hearing, just name and address and that we can write it down.
Before I speak, you want me to do that?
Yeah.
We already have a copy of your letter, so you can go ahead and speak. And then after you speak, you can, we need your name
Okay.
and address. and
Okay,
phone
I'm Donna Luck, and I know you guys are probably familiar with my name because I gave you a copy of what I had written. I live on 1907 Upper Trentwood, and I guess our whole community doesn't understand why the city of Wilmer wants to disrupt our whole way of life. A lot of us, most of us, do not like this idea at all. We feel that if this land should be rezoned, it should go to residential, single-family homes, not high density. So please listen to us about the rezoning on Lakeland Drive. It's going to be totally congested and unsafe. So many reasons to not build high-density apartment buildings. It will not only affect Trentwood Estates and the people who live along Lakeland and the North Square Trailer Court. People living on 11th Avenue, that's their only access out and in. 14th Avenue is also concerned with the traffic. A church has bought the property on the corner of our Trentwood, and that's going to be more traffic entering in and out of Lakeland. There will probably be at least 400 or so more cars going in and out on Lakeland with these apartments. And all these access and departures are all within a fourth of a mile. And I don't think there's anybody here who can tell me we're not going to have problems. It's also on a hill, and we already have trouble seeing traffic coming from that hill when we exit Upper Trentwood. Many people use Lakeland Drive, including high school students going back and forth from school. People use it as an access to Highway 23. They use it as an access to the Midwest campus. The traffic is going to be terrible. Trentwood residents will lose their privacy. Apartment dwellers will be able to look in our backyards, being 3 stories high. We were told when we moved here that the land was a buffer from the trailer park, so we wouldn't lose the privacy. We are mostly older, retired people. We bought here for the privacy and quietness. We feel safe here. I can go walking at 5 in the morning and feel completely safe in our neighborhood now. 2 households are already talking about moving if this goes through. Property values will go down. Who wants to look at a 3-story apartment building in their backyard? And I did call the assessor's office, and they told me that there is no such development in Wilmer to compare because it's never been done. There are no 3-story apartment buildings that look into a big residential area. So they couldn't tell me if our property values would go down. But I do believe they will. And it's like I look at all of you, and would you want to stay, or you look in your backyard, a 3-story apartment building? Are 3 of them? No. I mean, that's total invasion of privacy. We already have 2 nursing homes, 6 group homes in the area. We don't want or need any apartment buildings. They would be totally out of place. Apartment buildings are going up all over in the city. We don't need or want one here. We have all one level living in Trentwood and also in North Square Trailer Park. These apartment buildings would stick out like a sore thumb. Please listen to us. Consider the area and the traffic and the safety of all of us. And I've been told that people say you can't fight City Hall, and yet we're here trying. We don't want to give up. We just feel so good about our area now, and we don't want it to change to that. Wilmer will have a lot of unhappy residents if this proceeds. So please vote no and stand up for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Luck, just a minute. Mr. Walker, are there 2 nursing homes in the area there? There's 2 congregate care facilities, but not nursing homes, correct? That's a different designation?
They're nursing homes, 2. One on each side of Upper Trentwood.
One will be about 150 feet away from
But I don't think they're nursing homes.
They are nursing homes.
Okay,
Their care facilities?
Yes,
Nursing home.
they're overnight services, yes.
okay, thank you. And then, do we know, is there a church that's bought the property there?
On the corner of Upper Trentwood.
Yeah, we haven't looked into that to confirm that, but that's what people have been saying, that property. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's what people have mentioned, that churches bought land up there, but I mean, that's not something we track or can confirm, so.
Okay. Okay, anybody else who wishes to speak? Go ahead. State your name and, do you have the sign-up sheet going around? Let's get the sign-up sheet going around so we don't have to do it after. Did Ms. Luck sign up? Okay,
My name's
behind you,
Susan
Just a-
Aquig.
behind you.
I live in Trentwood Estates. I have lived there for about 6 years. I have the same concerns that Donna does and most of the residents out there. We enjoy our backyards, being able to look at the green spaces, just like everyone enjoys relaxing in your backyard, having a barbecue, having friends over. The friends aren't even going to want to come because people in a 3-story apartment building are going to be gawking at us. And I don't think there's going to be a fence blocking their view, because I have not heard of a fence that can go that high. But maybe there is, but I haven't heard of it. And I too am concerned about safety. There are very, very many residents that have bought out there at Trentwood Estates that are using canes, they're using walkers, and they move slowly, and sometimes they're in the middle of the road because their balance isn't real good. I have major concerns about it. I have had concerns with just people living there that have driven too fast, and I've addressed the police department about that. Now you're going to add 400 more cars, and you can't tell me they aren't going to drive through our section. They will be, and they'll be driving faster than the residents that are driving too fast now. We see them go by at 40 miles an hour at least now. It's only a matter of time before somebody is maimed or killed, and we don't want that in our neighborhood. Major concerns. So please stop and think about it, what you would do if it was proposed for your backyard. You wouldn't want people gawking at you all the time. I refuse to black out every window in my house so I don't have to see it. I like the sunshine like everyone else does, so that's my opinion, and I hope you think long and hard before rezoning it for 3-story apartment buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Have you signed up yet?
I did.
Thank you.
I'm Linda Sorensen. I live at 1209 Lakeland Drive, so almost right across from where this is going to be. First of all, I wanted to say that Brett Carlson, who also lives on Lakeland, he had to leave, but he sent his letter to the secretary. I don't know if she received it. He sent it just before he left here. He had concerns because he lives right on the corner where this, across from where this
You know
entrance
who
is
he
going to
sent it
be.
to?
I thought he said Thompson.
Spoken here multiple times, but he's the young couple on the corner that lives right across from the entrance.
Yeah. He wanted to speak tonight too, but he had to leave.
Okay.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, to listen to our concerns. First of all, I wanted to address that in the agenda packet, there's a error where it says my husband, Knut Sorensen, spoke and said the property values are going to skyrocket, but he didn't say that. I even re-listened to the audio. Quite the opposite, as you know from listening to our neighbors. And I'd like to address some comments made by commissioners and council members in regard to this project. One was that no one wants this in their neighborhood. Well, I felt that this statement was made to disregard our concerns. And I do understand some people complain about any change in their neighborhood, but I don't believe we're in that category. With this project, we have real concerns about safety, as you have already heard. But I have some rhetorical questions. Have you been on our road in a busy morning traffic, which includes overconfident, inexperienced teenage drivers on their way to school? Or have you been there when the train stops over Lakeland and just sits there? And are you truly aware of where these proposed buildings are going to be placed? Have you driven thoughtfully down our road, North Lakeland Drive? The entire property is on a hill. There's no flat portion on this hill, on this property at all. And the police chief has stated that he's concerned about potential accidents at the entrance. And that's a real concern because those, including Brett Carlson, that live across from there, they've had people almost smash into them when they're trying to get in and out of their driveways. And most people have to back out because their driveways are really short there on Lakeland. And then another thing is people have compared this project to the Northland Mobile Home Park, which is R4 density. But here's some facts. Northland Square is 22 acres. It currently has 110 mobile homes. There's 2 exits, one on Lakeland and one on Civic Center. Whereas this Unique Opportunities project, on the other hand, has 13.9 acre lot in which there will be 216 apartments and 1 exit on a hill. So about twice as many people squeezed into a lot about half the size of Northland Square. Another comment was that this complex was needed for people in the community that work at Midwest campus and senior high school. If a person lives in Wilmer, their longest commute to Midwest would be about 10 minutes. So I doubt they'd want to move into what will be an overcrowded neighborhood so that they can shave off a few minutes to their commute. And then there's been comments that no one can expect a cornfield to be undeveloped. Well, we understand that. And we wouldn't complain if there was a development of single-family homes or duplexes, because that would really fit into our neighborhood. And we have nothing against Mr. Herzog. We hope he can build somewhere else in Wilmer. And we'd like you to know that the bottom of the hill on Lakeland near the entrance of Northland Square already has frequent flooding issues. I have pictures of a couple of events from May of this year where it completely flooded out across the road. And the only reason it's not worse in these pictures is because the residents that live there dig out the storm drain. So we already have problems there now. He's planning a retention pond, but that's going to be south or north. That's going to be up the hill farther than where we already have problems. So we're concerned about the water issues. And as you know, we gave you a petition last month where 55 out of 60 residents signed that they didn't want this property being rezoned. So lastly, we feel unheard and ignored. It seems like everything's already been decided beforehand and that our concerns mean nothing. And after all, it's not your neighborhood. You don't have to live with this decision, but we do. So we beg of you to please hear us. We're not just a bunch of complainers. My biggest concern is the safety. If accidents, injuries, and possibly even deaths occur, do you want that on your conscience? Thank you.
Thank you. I do have the letter I was messaging our city administrator to get the letter from Mr. Carlson. So let me read the letter because Mr. Carlson was referenced. And so let me read the letter from Mr. Carlson. And we have his name and address, correct? He spoke at the last public hearing.
I can get it off the last minutes.
I guess I'm writing this letter under a different circumstance than last time I was here. Last week, I reached out to my real estate agent over the construction of an apartment complex and reached out to several others in the area. They all had the same conclusion that the project would indeed depreciate the value of our property. Unfortunately, the problem to prove it on paper is having an appraisal done to show the depreciation over time. My real estate agent reached out to an appraiser, which told her it'd take doing a very complex and very expensive appraisal to figure out how much the depreciation would be. Sadly, we don't have the several thousands of dollars to get the appraisal done, specifically if, in the end, the complex still moves ahead and makes it worthless. Not only would we lose money on our house, we were also told we would probably have a very hard time selling our house since we're right next to the entrance. We have fought weeks and weeks to bring up concerns and come up with alternatives that get shot down. We have fought side by side with neighbors and friends to make our community and neighborhood safer, but everything falls short. Everybody says they agree, but the vote never sways to our side. There's been lying and deceitful truths in this whole project, but money comes before our livelihoods. Due to many hours of conversation with real estate agents telling us they would lose money on our house due to the apartment complex, traffic safety concerns, and nobody reaching out to us to address any of our problems on the corner. My wife and I have made the heartbreaking decision that we'll be selling our home. It is really not by choice. We feel like we're being drove out of our home just so someone else can profit off of it. I know last time I said we feel disregarded and that we don't matter. There's a point where you just keep hitting brick walls and keep getting back up to fight. My wife and I think we have hit the end of the road and we have lost that battle. I was talking to one of the city council members today. After we were done talking, here's what his final thought was. You're what they considered collateral damage. That's what sucks about doing politics. My wife is a nurse in Wilmer, and I'm a public servant in Candy, Ohio, and Swift County, and we've given our lives to help others in the community. But we are always the first ones to get trampled on and the first ones told that our livelihoods don't matter. Thanks for your time, the Carlsons. Mr. Backman.
Aaron Backman, Executive Director of the EDC. I have a letter from Warren Erickson dated September 19th. And he is the president of Erickson Land Company that's been developing Trentwood, et cetera. I'm unable to attend the Wilmer City Council meeting this evening as I'm out of town for a number of days. Therefore, I'm writing this letter to show my support of the rezoning of the land that I own on Lakeland Avenue that is being considered for construction of 216 housing units on the property. As I noted in the letter, which I sent to the Planning Commission back in August, I purchased this property about the same time that I started developing Trentwood Estates as a buffer to the existing trailer park and for the potential for future development. Since that time, I have built or sold off about 95% of the lots and have retired as a general contractor. Since I have made the decision to sign the purchase agreement, I have had several homeowners in Trentwood Estates stop in or write to me with their concerns. These concerns have been expressed to the Planning Commission in the past meetings. I would like it to be known that I have been asked to cancel the purchase agreement by a number of those who communicated with me. It has been said that when I was selling lots, that the buffer zone between the trailer park and Trentwood Estates would always remain. What I said was that the land might be for future development by myself, so not as a buffer zone. As the time to fully develop Trentwood Estates took away longer than I anticipated, and in that time, the cost to develop the land for townhomes and single-family homes have gotten to the point where it's not economically feasible. The small Sunset model we built in 2005 was sold for $156,000, has since been resold for $205,000, and replacement cost is now $279,000. This replacement cost is based on the existing lot that has all the improvements and utilities in it, and a lot price of $19,000. That same lot price, in my estimation in today's dollars, would be closer to $40,000 to $50,000, making that home sell for approximately $299,000 to $309,000. I feel that the proposed use of the property would be a good transition from the trailer park to the north and Trentwood Estates to the south. With the current high cost of building single-family homes and the continued need for housing in Wilmer, I speak both as the owner of the property and as a resident of Trentwood Estates. Thank you, Warren Erickson. I have some
Mr.
other...
Beckman,
Yes.
just for the record, Mr. Erickson had sent that to myself and staff as well, and I'm not sure if he sent it to council, but we do have a copy of that that will be entered into the record. So go ahead.
On August 3rd, the Wilmer Planning Commission, after holding a public hearing and listening to residents' comments, unanimously voted to approve the rezoning of the Erickson property from agriculture to R5 and referred it to the City Council. The zoning change and proposed development were viewed as being consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. On September 7th, the Wilmer Planning Commission also unanimously approved both the preliminary plat and the final plat for Unique Opportunities Lakeland project. They also approved the conditional use permit, CUP, that will enable the construction over time of 3 buildings on the 14-acre site that will include green space for retention pond and playground. I support the rezoning of the property along Lakeland Drive to facilitate the development of the proposed Unique Opportunities project. The location of R4 and R5 zoning in the city of Wilmer has not been done willy-nilly by the Planning Commission nor the Wilmer City Council. There has been some thought given to appropriate zoning adoption over the years. Most often, R4 and R5 housing investments have been located along our minor arterial roads as opposed to our principal arterials, which are Highway 23, Business 71, US Highway 12. Wilmer's minor arterials include Wilmer Avenue, 19th Avenue, Lakeland Drive, County Road 5. All of them have R4s and R5s and/or R5s along those routes. For instance, 19th Avenue, Dana Heights, R4, 15th Street Flats, R5, Wilmer Avenue, Oakwood Manor, R4, Independence Place Cooperative, R4, County Road 5, Foot Lake Apartments, R4, Somerset by the Lake, R4, Unique Opportunities, R5, Lakeland Drive, Somerset Ridge, R4, Hanson Apartments, R5, Sweet Living, R4, and directly north of the proposed site is Northland Square Mobile Home Park, R4. Lakeland Drive is a relatively wide road. It can accommodate more growth in a manner on the northeast side of town, including multifamily residential. Thank you.
Anybody else who wishes to speak?
I'm Jeanette Swenson. I live in Trentwood, and the apartments will be right behind our house. Couple things. When the area met with Justice and the builder, Mr. Herzog, he repeatedly said that the apartments would be 100 feet from our lot line. That has changed at the Planning Commission to 64 feet. Our backyard is 50 feet. That's really getting close. And another thing that has not been done is a traffic study. Nobody has any idea how much traffic is going to be generated on that road with these apartments, and how unsafe it's going to be. In some respects, I think we have been led wrong. People have been dishonest. I don't agree with that. I think it's pretty bad that the Planning Commission or whoever, Mr. Herzog, can say these things, and it's totally different when it happens. Thank you.
Mr. Backman, could you address the 100 feet versus the 64 feet, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my understanding was that it was 100 feet from the buildings, not from the property line. And by the way, 64 feet from the property line is more than the required setback. So they have it actually farther into the property than what is required by the city of Wilmer.
What is that standard?
40 feet. 40 feet. So they're 24 feet beyond what is required.
Okay. Anybody else that wishes to speak? And I'm assuming all of you have signed the form, right?
I will sign it.
Thank you.
When I get down here. Dudley Becker, I live at 1717 Lower Trentwood Circle. They're not going to be behind my house, but I live there, and it's like they say, a very nice area. But I want to just bring up the fact that I don't think Lakeland Avenue is going to be able to handle that. If you go out in the morning, which I do to go to Spice for breakfast every now and then, between 7:45 and 8 o'clock, it's a zoo up there where you turn to go on Civic Drive. So you're going to have a real issue getting down to 23 and on Civic Drive. And you've got that hill to contend with on Lakeland Avenue. I feel it's not going to be able to handle it. It's a very, very busy street. And I heard someone mention 19th Avenue. You have 4 lanes there. You do not have that on Lakeland Avenue. Lakeland Avenue just is not going to be able to take care of that. There's absolutely no way. When you've got all these kids going out to the high school, it gets very, very busy. So I just want to point that out, that Lakeland Avenue, I don't think we'll be able to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Vogie? What's the traffic count that road is authorized for?
Mayor, Council, I had the opportunity to attend the Planning Commission meeting last week or a couple weeks ago. At any rate, one of the items that's been discussed is a traffic study for Lakeland Drive. As recently as today, I had conversations with the applicant indicating his traffic engineer would be reaching out to me tomorrow morning. So the traffic study will be moving forward. I don't have that traffic volume off the top of my head here with me, but ultimately the concerns as it's related to traffic will be identified as part of that traffic study that is being required.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak to the issue?
Hello, I'm Samuel Herzog. I'm the developer with Unique Opportunities. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to listen to the concerns from the residents. I've identified 9 separate concerns that were addressed tonight. Most of these are the same concerns that have been addressed throughout the previous meetings as well, and I want to just briefly address them. Like the engineer just addressed, we are doing a traffic study. We have agreed as a developer, we'll abide by the results of the traffic study. If for some reason it would say the project can't happen, we won't move the project forward. If for some reason it would say we need a turn lane, we'll work with the city to find out what that process would look like. And we have agreed that we'll abide by that. We're not going to try to say, well, we did a traffic study, now let's ignore the results. So, it sounds like traffic is probably the number one concern that's been addressed here tonight. We are making sure that the traffic will be taken care of in a manner that's adequate for the area. From my experience developing in other communities, Lakeland Drive is 44 feet wide. That's really wide for a road like that, and I don't think we're going to have a capacity problem. There might need to be some restriping done or some other aspects that can be looked at, but we feel like there will be a way that there's a path forward that will be safe, potentially even safer than the neighborhood currently is now. The next aspect that I wanted to address is safety. A couple of the residents mentioned their concerns with neighborhood safety. They feel comfortable going for a walk at early morning hours now. I would feel free to ask any of the police officers, the police chief, the city staff. Our other buildings in town are not crime magnets by any means. I did some brief calculations, and it looks like from what I can tell based on the public records, the crime rate committed at our apartment complexes is relatively significantly lower than the general crime rate in the community of Wilmer. We are going to manage these in a way where we don't believe the neighborhood will be anywhere in any way less safe than it currently is. You know, the neighborhood residents that are there will continue to be able to enjoy that surrounding area, and we believe our tenants are really going to enjoy that part of town too. And we believe the safety will not be a ongoing issue. One of the other concerns was fences. We're planning on putting both a fence and a long-term tree buffer in between our property and Trentwood. The fence will obviously provide more of a short term, but it's a fair point. You can't put a 30-foot fence up. And we will be able to, because of that, plant trees that over time will grow in height and provide a much better barrier than a fence could. And that will provide a lot of buffer between us and the residents on Trentwood. Additionally, one of the points I wanted to mention along with that, the building is 3 stories. There's a couple things that I think are worth noting with that, though. Upper Trentwood and the Trentwood area will be at a higher elevation than our buildings. From my initial calculations, and we can get more specific ones as we go through the engineering, will be roughly a story below grade of most of the houses on Trentwood, meaning they'll be looking out and it will actually look closer to a 2-story building because we'll set our grades lower. Additionally, underneath that grade, we'll have underground parking as well. And we're doing that to keep the area as green as possible and get as many of the cars underneath the building as possible. Once again, I'm not going to say every house is going to only look like a 2-story, but a lot of those houses that are directly adjacent to it, it's not like they're going to be looking out at the apartment grade with the way that site's going to be developed. One of the comments was made that there would be a commute no longer than 10 minutes from anywhere in Wilmer. I think that's probably an accurate statement, but part of what we want to see with these apartment complexes is more walkability and biking. The Minnesota Tech Campus or the MN Tech Campus, whatever the proper term for it is there, is the primary reason we chose this area. We're already pulling a lot of tenants from that across town, and we've gotten lots of questions about when we're going to be able to build closer to that so it's easier for people to walk and bike to work. I think communities that grow in a healthy manner have all sorts of housing all throughout the community. And I think this is a great example of a housing project that will provide a great use for people that live in that part of the community and are able to utilize that walkability and biking components that area offers, including the bike lane that's right on Lakeland. Flooding and stormwater, I saw those pictures as well. I was very surprised. It does seem like there's a stormwater issue there. A lot of the area was developed before there were stormwater requirements in place with the mobile home park there and some of the adjacent properties. What I can tell you and what the acting city engineer will be happy to attest to, he will make sure this project does not cause any more issues. I'm not going to tell you it's going to solve it because I don't think that this property is primarily where the water's coming from, but we'll make sure once this property is done that there's no more water leaving it than there is today. From my experience, there's oftentimes less water leaving it. So this property is not going to add to any of the stormwater concerns from the area. One of the other concerns was that was brought up was losing money on the houses, and the valuations may drop after apartment complexes go up. I'm unaware of any study that indicates that that is accurate with a nicer, newer apartment complex going in. I've done this in 8 or 9 communities around the state in residential areas that are very similar to this, and we have not seen any noticeable difference. We've seen a lot of property appreciation. Now, granted, there's been property appreciation everywhere the last couple of years. It's not likely appreciating because of the apartments, but it's appreciating along with the rest of the property in the community. And I think that that's the case that we'll likely see here as well. I will say, one great example, we have some apartments in Alexandria. We've built 4 of them across from some very residential neighborhoods. And we have found that a lot of tenants actually go from our apartment building to those neighborhoods that are nearby because they've gotten comfortable with that area. And I would say there's a new pool of buyers that is actually going to come in as part of this complex being built if it moves forward. Just a couple more things. I know I'm going long here, but I do want to try to do my best to address it. I have done my very best throughout this process to not ignore people. I understand that when you keep seeing approvals that aren't what you want, that it can feel like you're being ignored. I have made, I did miss the last planning commission meeting because I had prior engagements. My business partner was there. But I made sure I made the neighborhood meeting. I have tried to be a part of it. I've tried to listen. At the last neighborhood meeting, we met with, or one of the mobile park residents was there that will be the closest to our property in the corner by where the stormwater pond is going in. She pointed out that our stormwater pond is literally going to come right up to her mobile home the way it's currently drafted. And in light of that, we met with our engineers and we're able to actually shift that over to save the 2 large trees that are there. Technically, the trees are on our property, but we're going to be able to leave them and it'll provide a buffer for her. And she was thankful that we were able to do that. Obviously, the project happening is going to be a lot of the problem, and I'm not going to solve, I'm not going to be able to perfectly solve every problem you have, but I have been through this entire process committed to doing that. If I misconstrued the 100 feet, I want to personally apologize. That was not my intention. I don't recall what was said specifically. When I was talking about 100 feet, I was talking about it from your house to our apartment complex. If I said something different, I do apologize. That was not my intention.
You said 100 feet more than one time that night.
I did say 100 feet, and
From 100 feet from the property line.
Okay,
either way, my intention, I try to live my life in a way where I'm living it with integrity. I understand that you don't feel like that happened, but I have gone through this entire process.
Address the council.
I apologize. I've gone through this entire process with as much integrity as possible and tried to be as open as honest with the members of the community that have addressed concerns. And I feel like, for the most part, I've been able to do that. And in light of that, we feel like we've created a project that does work in the area, that meets a need in the community, and that will be a benefit long-term to the community of Wilmer. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments from the public?
I just have one quick question.
You have to come to the mic, please.
Okay. Dr. Becker again. With that car count being done on Lakeland Avenue, isn't that reason enough to kind of table this whole thing till that's done, to see what Lakeland Avenue can handle or how many cars are on there? I mean, as far as making a decision tonight, I'll just leave it there.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, I'll do that as well, too, in a minute. Knut Sorensen, 1209 Lakeland Drive. A blatant emotional appeal. Many have said in previous meetings that you wouldn't want this kind of construction in your backyard. There's a saying in the world, the golden rule, who has the gold makes the rule, but we all know what the real golden rule is. It's do unto others as you would want them to do to you. Don't do this to us. We wouldn't want to do it to you. This is really kind of a monstrosity. This is a giant 3-apartment complex in a very residential area. Drive through the area. It does not fit with the milieu. Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
Yeah, so just kind of concerning the traffic study. So the Planning Commission did approve the CUP contingent upon all results from the traffic study must be adhered to. So whatever concerns are raised by the traffic study and the suggested mitigations that are recommended by the traffic study must be adhered to, or the conditional use permit is not valid. And so I just want to say that I guess like it is approved, but it's contingent upon the traffic study and that all recommendations from the traffic study are followed.
Anybody else who wishes to speak?
I'm going to speak. My name is Joan Schultz, and I live at 1614 Upper Trentwood. And I want to speak to the same fact as the traffic study, the sewer study, any of the studies. When this all started, and I understand from the time I was here before, it sounded like you had a committee to find apartment places for people, that I understand you had a committee. I guess that's probably what I heard. And when this all starts, I guess my question is, why didn't you do the studies beforehand?
So the mayor's housing task force is addressing single-family housing. The housing study, this I believe will be the second or third. Be the third housing study the city has done. So what is being done is we're updating the housing study. It's a process. Those housing studies for developers last for a certain amount of time, or for your ability to get grants, it lasts for a certain amount of time, then it needs to be updated. So it's not that we don't have a housing study. We have a housing study. We're updating the housing study.
Okay, and the other thing I just wanted to add is, you know, quite a few single homes could be built in this area. And I guess I just think that should have been looked into too. Thank you.
Anybody else who wishes to speak? Anybody else from the public who wishes to speak to this issue? Council, are you ready for me to close the public hearing? Well, we'll try one on housing and see if that goes. I'll close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the council?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
This question would be for Mr. Walker. Thank you for the presentation tonight, and thank you for taking part in the public hearing process. Can you walk us through the steps? So this is specifically a request for rezoning to R5, but for our information here, as well as the public's information, what are the steps after this regarding this specific complex itself? This is not an approval for the project. This is a step in a series of steps. So can you explain to us what those steps are?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So tonight is the rezone, and so I guess kind of the rezone hearing. So things are a little, I would say like a little out of order, kind of how they're happening, because like the next public hearing is for the TIF public hearing, which, like I said, which is the financial side of the project. So let's say, just hypothetically, the rezone is approved and then the TIF piece is approved as well. Okay. And then moving from there, let's say that the traffic study comes back and like a turn lane needs to be added, and like it's more than striping, there needs to be more concrete, et cetera, et cetera. But then the developers say that this is no longer a viable project, and then they decide not to move forward with it. That's a possibility as well. So the main approvals tonight are the rezone, then the financial side, which is the TIF, which is for the public hearing that's after this. And then there's still the traffic study that needs to be adhered to. And then there's still the TIF development agreement that needs to be agreed upon as well. So there's still 4 more approvals that need to happen.
May I follow? Okay, thank you. So then just to triple confirm, if the council still has specific concerns regarding specifics on the project or the development itself, that would be a separate component than the rezone motion, correct?
Correct, but I think kind of concerning some of that, I feel like depending on what they are, like if they weren't related to traffic or setbacks or something, I think like there's still like some negotiating room, I guess, like with a conditional use permit, but the conditional use permit's kind of already been approved kind of as is with the traffic study pending. And so I would say there's a little more to like, the amount of influence is a little more curtailed than I think like in other projects, just because of like how the conditional use permit works. But if there were concerns as far as like the traffic study and things like that, I think I said it at the planning commission meeting. It's like when we do get the traffic study, I'll bring it back to the planning commission just on like an informational basis, and then that way everyone's kind of abreast on what the recommendations were, what the mitigations will be, and if the developer intends to comply to them or not.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. Just to clarify for me, what action at the Planning Commission did they put that contingency on for the traffic study?
For the
It's
condition,
not the ones we're talking about tonight? No.
wait, so for this project?
Well, you said that there was a contingency for the traffic study, but it is not, did that take place at the last Planning Commission meeting? During what were you working on when that study was made a contingency?
So that was one of the conditions for approval, that they approved it with a traffic study, because initially there was a day-long traffic study that was floated. Everyone on the planning commission agreed that was not sufficient enough time to gather information that would be useful. And so I guess kind of the history of the traffic study request, several weeks ago, it was a request of citizens that there be a traffic study done. And so the developer was like, oh, well, we should do the traffic study. That way we can come back at the next meeting. And everyone's like, no, that's not fair, because this is a major thoroughfare for people.
Can you speak directly to the question?
Oh, yeah, so the traffic study, we addressed the traffic study at the planning commission under the guise of the conditional use permit.
And the conditional use permit, why did they need a conditional use permit after if the rezoning is approved?
So the conditional use permit, they exceed like the unit threshold, and so this is conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you.
Additional, Councilmember Butterfield, followed by Osk.
Well, it was just brought up that the street is 44 foot wide. I know at one point in time, I don't recall how long ago, the city took away parking off of Lakeland to make it a bike lane. I want to know, how's that bike lane with the 44 feet wide with no parking going to keep up with this, keeps going through?
So currently, the requirement is 2 spaces per unit, which I think far exceeds the necessary, I think, parking required for housing. So they're building 432 stalls. They should be able to park everything on site. As an avid cyclist who lives on Lakeland, I'd be very opposed to converting the bike lanes to parking. And then I think also just from a standpoint, I mean we've already discussed possibly restriping the road to make it tighter for people to kind of control like the speed limits and kind of move the bike lane in from the shoulder. But there is no concept right now that shows removing the bike lane and adding parking.
Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Walker, so based on your answers to Councilwoman Nelson's questions, it's the conditional use permit that has the contingency of the traffic study. But that is not before us at this moment.
Nope.
We're talking about rezoning a property.
Correct.
That is not contingent on a traffic study.
Correct.
So if we rezone tonight and this becomes R5, and then that hypothetical situation that you offered, Councilmember Plowman, becomes true, we're going to have a developer that's no longer interested in this piece of property, but it's going to be zoned R5.
Correct.
And probably unwanted for any other developer to build anything in an R5 zone.
Correct. There'll also be the financial implications of that. The ag deferred assessments would have to be paid.
Right. So I guess my question is, why is this not contingent on a traffic study? Why are we doing this tonight and not waiting for the traffic study?
Exactly.
As a council, you could put that stipulation on it if you chose to do that.
Is there some aspect of the project that gets held up and becomes a burden to the staff or to the developer if this doesn't happen?
I think for staff, this doesn't really create an issue. I think as long as like the rezone, if it was tied to the traffic study, it wouldn't be an issue. I think if you guys brought it back after the results of the traffic study and decided to move forward with it, that'd be another thing. I think the reservations might rest with the developer, but on the staff side, this is like holding it up would be fine.
Ms. Valiant.
Tonight also, you're going to be here, have the public hearing regarding the TIF for unique opportunities, and the TIF is required to have the property rezoned before that can be approved.
Could we still have it contingent upon the traffic study and satisfy the requirements of the TIF?
That'll work.
Thank you, Tom Denaway, Baker Tilly. I don't know the exact answer to that question. I'm thinking this through in advance of, as the conversation's been going on. With the TIF, and I would ask Robert to confirm, I believe you could hold the public hearing, take the public comment, that would satisfy that noticing portion and the taking of public comment portion, and then you could act on the approval for the TIF district at a later date, maybe at the same time you approve the rezoning. So you would have satisfied the notification requirement, you have taken the public hearing comment, and that would still not delay that TIF process any further than just the delay between now and the meeting. If you did not open and take public comment from the TIF perspective for that public hearing tonight, we would have to restart that whole notification process, which would be another 60 probably days or so. So as it relates to the TIF, if you choose to delay action on the rezoning tonight, I would suggest taking public comment, holding the TIF public hearing, and delaying action on the approval of the TIF district until a later date.
Mr. Scott, do you concur?
Mayor, members of the council, I do agree with that response, yes.
Councilmember Rosk.
I would move to table until the conclusion of the traffic study.
Motion is made to table the public hearing, or to table the rezone until the conclusion of the traffic study. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded. All in favor of the motion? I have no discussion on a table. All in favor of the motion? Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Nay.
Nelson,
No.
Fagerly,
This is the table.
Osmus,
No.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
All right.
Osk,
Aye.
Davis.
No.
4-4. 4 ayes, 4 nays, tie.
In light of what happened at the last city council meeting, I think we're probably headed in the same direction, and it's just a fruitless effort to continue this hearing. I will vote in favor of the motion. Next is a public hearing considering the ordinance licensing and regulating THC products within the city of Wilmer. Mr. Box. There's no reason to have the public hearing on the TIF because the council did not act on the first. Council tabled the first action, so that didn't happen. There's no reason to have a public hearing on the TIF. Mr. Box.
Can we take a recess?
Certainly. Council's in recess. Wilmer City Council is back in session. Next, we'll have a public hearing considering the ordinance licensing and regulating THC products. Mr. Box.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Coming back to you once again with the consideration of the adoption of this ordinance for THC products. Back in July, this was introduced to the full council. Discussion from the council, continued discussion from staff. We've now provided you the ordinance that we'd like you to consider this evening. If you'd like me to go through some of the specifics that I want to address with you from council recommendation was the increase in penalties and violations. Those were increased per the recommendation of the City Council, as well as staff reviewing licensing costs for this product as well. That was reviewed by administration and our law enforcement, our police department. And that is an action that you'll be taking later on if this ordinance is passed in the fee schedule. So I'll leave it at that for now, but if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, this is a public hearing considering the ordinance licensing and regulating THC products in its sale within the city of Wilmer. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing and hearing none. Council, are you ready for me to close the public hearing? I will close the public hearing, bring it to the council. Council, what are your wishes?
Make a motion to adopt the THC ordinance, assign a number and publish the ordinance.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt the licensing ordinance regulating THC products, assign it a number and publish it. Discussion. Mr. Box, can you tell us what the license fee would be? I know it's in the ordinance, but
We'll be proposing, later an action item that you'll be taking will be amending the fee schedule, will be $2,000 per license.
okay.
And
And
that,
that's
again-
based on staff's costs, correct?
And those are conservative numbers. Obviously, if law enforcement is called to do more follow-ups or anything more, that's where a majority of these costs are going to be coming from. We'll track this most certainly through the first year and continuing, but just to make sure that our fees and our time are being covered by this fee that being proposed.
Okay. Any council member Butterfield?
Say, I just read an article where the state of Minnesota's looking at losing $42 million in sales tax over this that the legislature forgot to add in. Is there a way we could add in a city sales tax into this yet?
That's a great question. Right now, we don't know. The League of Minnesota Cities is reviewing that question. And once we have that answer, we may bring that back at a later date.
Ms. Valiant.
Thank you. Sales tax is regulated by the state, so we can only tax what the state says we can tax.
Additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember
Hold on.
Nelson.
Do you have a question?
Make a friendly amendment and say the charge will be $2,500, because you said conservative.
Mr. Scott?
That's the next, isn't that the next?
That
one?
No.
will be agenda item number 12 will be
Yeah.
amending the fee schedule. It may be appropriate to do it
Oh,
that time.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So it just says that there'll be a fee, it doesn't say the amount?
Correct. It'll be a fee set by the council.
Okay,
Paraphrasing.
you okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay, so we have a motion to establish an ordinance licensing and regulating the sale of THC products within the city of Wilmer, adopt the ordinance, assign it a number, and publish it. Are you ready to vote? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Mr.
Next
Mayor?
staff is Ms. Councilmember Osmus.
Before we go farther down on the schedule, on the agenda, can we go back and finish D? Would it be possible to go ahead with the TIF discussion without the ordinance?
Would it be possible to have a motion to publish it by summary, the last ordinance, so we can finish up item number E?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to publish by summary. Discussion. Roll call. This takes 6 votes.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
No.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
That resolution passes.
Sorry, now is when I would like to.
Council
Go
can do, council can do whatever they want to do. I have moved on the agenda items.
I would like to go back.
Are you making that a motion?
Do I have to revisit? I'll make a motion to revisit D on the agenda to discuss the resolution for the TIF.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Again, the mayor had moved past that on the agenda item. The mayor is the presider of the meeting. You are overruling the mayor. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Would you like me to open the public hearing?
Yes.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this is the TIF public hearing, and so like I discussed, the project on Lakeland has 2 components. There's the land use side and there's the financial side, and the TIF hearing is to address the financial side. With me tonight, I have Mr. Tom Dinaway from Baker Tilly to give a presentation over the financials of the project, to revisit what the but-for was, and then the ask and the financials of the project and the performance, to review that for the public and for the council purpose. So with that, I'll bring up Mr. Tom Dinaway.
Thank you, Justice. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, are you guys able to see the TIF presentation on your screen?
Not yet.
Oh, there we are. Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Tom Denaway. I am with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. I am here to provide the summary information in advance of the TIF public hearing. This is a similar presentation to what was provided originally to the council back in early August, but this is additional information as it relates to the project, or the same information provided again in summary in advance of your taking a public comment. As mentioned tonight, one of the conditions for the approval of the TIF district is that the zoning for the project within the TIF district aligns with the current zoning for that site. So considering that the rezoning of the property is pending approval, I would suggest at this point holding the public hearing, taking comment, and then delaying approval of any action, or really any action on the TIF district and the resolution. This satisfies the notice requirement that's part of TIF statute. There's a whole 60 to 90-day process that has to be undertaken in order to create a TIF district that has certain notification requirements that culminates in a public hearing. If you hold the public hearing tonight and take that public comment, you maintain your ability to act on the TIF district if you are so interested at the following meeting. If you do not hold the public hearing tonight, we would have to restart that 60 to 90-day process. So with that, I think we're all pretty familiar with the project. The one thing I will note on here is that the post-development market value as provided by the county assessor's office was just a little shy of $146,000 per unit. That was based off of their review of the initial project plans. The total estimated cost for the first building, or each building, is $12.1 million, with an estimated total cost for the project of $36.3 million. In order for the project to be eligible for creation of a TIF district, as a housing TIF district, a certain percentage of the units would have to be set aside for certain income restrictions. So 20% of the units would need to be set aside for incomes equal to or less than 50% of the area median income, or 40% of the units would need to be set aside for incomes at equal to or less than 60% of the area median income. The developer is intending to meet that 20% requirement. So this is the Tif projections. They're also included with the Tif plan. You can see the market value coming online over time, creating the additional growth in property taxes that would be generated by the site and captured and redirected as property tax increment. That revenue would be used to fund and reimburse the developer on a pay-as-you-go basis for their costs. One of the statutory requirements that needs to be met or found by the City Council in order to create or approve a TIF district is the but-for finding. So that is a finding that the proposed project would not occur but for the requested TIF assistance. So one of the ways that we can go about answering that question is by going through a financial rate of return analysis for the project. We can take that but-for question and answer that objectively on the basis of the potential rate of return that the project would realize without assistance, and if that is a significant enough level of return for a developer to invest in a project that type. So when we look at the project, we calculate a 10-year internal rate of return calculation using a 10-year operating pro forma, and without assistance, we calculated an unleveraged IRR of 5.28%. With the TIF assistance, it results in an internal rate of return, which is a return on investment measure of 7.19. As a benchmark to determine if a project is likely to be invested in, we use the PricewaterhouseCoopers Real Estate Investor Survey, which identifies a target of 6.83%. And that is actually an older dated study now that is not incorporating the most recent increases to the general interest rates that would actually drive up the need for a higher return. So with this, even using that dated and very conservative measure of 6.83%, you can see that the calculated rate of return for the project without TIF of 5.29 falls well below that threshold. And then with the TIF assistance falls just slightly above that threshold. And again, that is a conservative benchmark that hasn't been adjusted to account for increased interest rate, the increased interest rate environment that we're currently in. So without TIF, the project is significantly below that benchmark and indicating the project would be unlikely to proceed but for the requested TIF assistance. So financing project costs in Wilmer, this project is proposed to be a pay-as-you-go project. So the developer would be responsible for funding all the public improvements up front, and they would be reimbursed over time to the extent that tax increment revenue is generated on the project. That puts all that risk of future tax increment revenue performance on the developer. If that revenue comes in at a lower rate or in a lesser amount than projected, or property tax rates change and the like, that risk is completely borne on by the developer, and the city would have no obligation to fulfill any of that amounts beyond passing along the 90% of the tax increment revenue that's generated by the project. So the total project reimbursement amount is proposed to be $8.7 million, and the developer, and that is for all three phases of the project. They will be incurring portions of their eligible reimbursable amounts as each of the phases are built. So the developer will initially fund those TIF expenses, and they will be reimbursed on a pay-as-you-go basis over time if you were to enter into the development agreement. And this is the Tif eligible budget. The city is proposing to retain 10% of the total tax increment revenue for administrative expenses per the maximum amount allowed by Tif statute of $4.5 million, or excuse me, $461,000. So TIF housing districts have a potential maximum statutory duration of 26 years. This district is proposed to be a shortened 17-year duration. That it would be to allow 15 full years of TIF capture following the completion of all three buildings. So the city has a 15-year policy. So this allows for 15 years of full TIF revenue following a 3-year build out. So the next steps, if you so choose tonight, given the changes, would be to take public comment and then at a later date, having resolved the zoning issue, take action on the resolution. And with that, any questions on the TIF?
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone from the public that wishes to speak? Again, state your name and address for the record, please.
Donna Luck, 1907 Upper Trentwood. I think it's ridiculous. I don't really understand TIFs, but I can't see paying the developer money when we don't want it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Justice, can you make sure they're signing in? It's a separate public hearing, so you have to sign in on both. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? State your name and address for the record, please.
Roger Swenson, 1702 Upper Trentwood. It seems like more of the meeting was done out in the hallway than in here.
I'm Doug Finstra with Edina Realty. My address is 2405 Country Club Drive. One of the things that I wanted to bring forth is the need for housing in our community. The developer shared with me that he has a waiting list of over 700 people, very uncommon and unusual for his circumstances, and is needed. I wanted to point out these companies that are going to be hiring or are trying to hire within our community. One of the problems and obstacles that we face in our community is providing clean and good new housing for executives, engineers, scientists, and others that are paid a advanced rate. Relco, Prinsco, Genio, Bethesda, Dame Steel, Northern Factory Sales, PALS, Novatech, Select Genetics, Centricare, Epitopics, FedEx, Nexus is a possibility coming forth. Marcus Construction, Tuisha Construction, Dunick Companies, Mills Auto Parts Company, Dooley's Petroleum, and Ridgewater College. All of these companies are expanding very much and are a great contributor to our community. Thank you.
Make sure and sign up, would you, Mr. Finstra? Anybody else from the public who wishes to speak? Council, are you ready to close the public hearing? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution to establish the TIF district and adopt the TIF plan for unique opportunities.
That motion is an invalid motion. Council, what are your wishes?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
may I direct a question towards our legal staff?
I'm looking for a motion.
Can I get an explanation why that's an invalid motion?
Because you have to approve the first one before you can do this one. You have to approve the rezoning before you can approve the TIF.
Can we get a clarification on that from city attorney?
You can do whatever you want.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, the rezoning would need to be approved before the TIF resolution could be approved establishing the TIF district. So the recommendation would be for the council to consider the resolution as well as the TIF agreement at the next meeting if the rezoning has been approved by that point.
Motion to table until the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have audit presentation by Mr. Dave Early from West Bergen Nations.
I don't know. Good evening, Mayor and council members. David Early with the Westburg Ishans. We completed the audit for the year 2021. We did not issue any findings related to the financial statements, and we did not have any findings related to any compliance issues. I do have a governance letter that I just want to point out one section that I think you'd need to take action on to be in total compliance. So under the Minnesota compliance section, there's a reference to the electronic funds transfer. You've passed the policy, but every year what you have to do as part of that policy is say who has the authority to make the electronic funds transfers. So it's just something annually that you have to put on the calendar, just to make sure that it's clear who has the authority, and it just has to be repeated each year. It's just part of the Minnesota thing. So outside of that, I just have a couple handouts just to look at some of your major funds. On the first graph, we're looking at the general fund and the capital improvement fund. Your fund balance actually decreased by about $1 million, but that was to be expected based on your budget. And as you can see, the trend from 2017 to 2021 is to spend down that fund balance. But you still have approximately 55% of what you plan on spending in 2022. So if you measure it that way, you still have a good fund balance in those two funds there. Another important fund for you is the Community Investment Fund. The fund balance on that one decreased by about $100,000. And actually about half of that was just an adjustment to fair market value on investments. So it wasn't truly a monetary loss that way. But overall, $10 million in that fund obviously provides a good cushion for its intended purpose of helping with projects and paying debt and so forth. The debt activity for the governmental activities, in 2021, you issued one special assessment bond at $2.9 million, and then you also had two sales tax bonds totaling $18.2 million. So at the end of 2021, the city's debt for the governmental was around $36 million. Now, you did approve to pay down some of your debt, and so in 2022, the bonds 2012 through 2015 were actually called and paid off now. So that debt's been reduced for this year. And as you can see, the fund balance in those accounts was sufficient to help pay those debts down. So no issues there at all. Waste treatment, obviously another significant fund for you. Everything looks pretty good on there. You know, it's generating operating income. The savings and investments are building up. In 2025, you do have one large debt payment that you have to make. There's a $7 million payment that has been deferred from the beginning, and that one will have to be made. But as you're going along here, you are generating sufficient funds. There shouldn't be any issues with making that payment on that. On the investment side, as you can see, the investments trending from 2017 to 2021, your balance has been increasing. You ended the year at $61.9 million. And most of that, a good chunk of that is 1 year or less. And so if you look at the maturities, they're pretty well balanced out. So, and then the last thing I just wanted to talk about is just the general fund budget overages. This is just a list of some of the departments that went over the budget for the year. In total, the general fund actually came well under budget, but these departments themselves were in excess of the budget. So. Anyone have any comments or questions for me?
Council, do you have any comments or questions for Mr. Early? So you would consider this a clean audit?
Yes, we issued a clean opinion on it with, like I said, no findings related to that. So,
okay. And my understanding is that your office did more work than you've done in the past on this?
Yes, we helped. This year we helped do the financial statements. Typically, the finance department drafts the financial statements, but we did assist with that this year.
Okay. And then when Ms. Valiant and I met with you prior to you doing the audit, one of the things that you said really, and the council has addressed this already, but one of the things you said that really needed to be done is we need to be updating our software and make it more compatible, like with other systems. And is that still your recommendation, that that was a good decision of the council?
Yes.
We did that at our last meeting, so I'm
Yeah.
hoping you're going to say it was a good
No,
good
I think
deal,
that's
so.
a good thing to do. You know, systems do get more and more complex, and, you know, your city gets more and more complex. So, you know, at some point, you do just have to update systems. And ultimately, you want one system that works. You know, you don't want a bit of this system and a bit of a different system. So having just one that works for all departments is pretty ideal. And it's a big project. You know, it's a big learning curve to go through that, but it will be well worth it once it's implemented.
Council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2021 audit.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt the 2021 audit presentation from Mr. Early from West Bergen-Ishans. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for your work.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks
that.
so much.
Next, we have a consideration approval of a resolution amending the 2022 fee schedule. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A follow-up from an earlier, the THC ordinance that was adopted by council earlier this evening. This amendment to the 2022 fee schedule would be putting a fee in place for that license. The proposed fee is $2,000, and again, to summarize, this was to cover law enforcement's and administration's cost, an estimate on time to issue and enforce the license. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Councilmember Fagerly.
I'm going to make a friendly amendment to charge $2,500.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Discussion on the amendment. Councilmember Nelson.
I'll be voting no. I'm going to, I know that staff reviewed this, and I think that following staff recommendation at this time is appropriate.
Councilmember
Thank you,
Fagerly.
Mr. Mayor. You got to remember, they said a conservative number. I'd rather overcharge than to be undercharging, so that's why I'm saying 2,500.
And I'm kind of confused. When do we decide to listen to staff and not staff? I mean,
Depends on the issue.
additional comments to the motion, to the friendly amendment. Councilmember Plowman, followed by Osk.
I guess just to reiterate what another council member has mentioned, I felt as though the licensing, the suggestions made at the previous meetings were just a little bit steep, so staff came back with this recommendation, and I guess I see fit to follow it.
Councilmember Osk.
Just a clarification, this is not a friendly amendment. Is that accurate?
Well, the motion is to approve it at 2,000, so the amendment would be to be 2,500. It'd be your decision as to whether or not it's a friendly one or not. That would be a personal decision.
Okay. But we're voting on the amendment, right? Frequently,
voting on
friendly
the
amendments were
amendment.
not.
Correct.
Yeah, all
If the
right.
amendment passes, then it goes up to 2,500.
And I consider Councilmember Fagerly to be very friendly, by the way.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. Additional comments or questions? To the amendment. So the amendment is to move it up to 2,500. And so that's an amendment. In the motion then would then be at 2,500. And then if somebody wanted to make another motion to change it, you could do that. But at this point, the recommendation by Councilmember Fagerly and Councilmember Butterfield is to move it to 2,500. Are you guys ready to vote? Councilmember Osmus, no? Roll call.
I was pointing to the city attorney.
Oh, Mr. Scott.
Mayor, members of the council, just I'm trying to make sure I'm not confused, but you have a motion at approving the schedule as presented, then there was a motion to amend the motion to raise the fee to 2,500. So I'm following this as you would need to vote on the motion to amend, and then you would need a vote on the main motion.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand there's two motions. Correct.
Thank you.
Additional comments, questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
No.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask,
No.
Davis,
No.
Plowman,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
3 ayes, 5 nays.
That motion does not, the amendment does not pass. The motion on the table stands at the $2,000 license fee. Discussion to the amendment. I'm sorry, discussion to the motion. Councilmember Osmus.
Is it just on that particular change, or are we voting on all of the changes that have been noted in this, in the fee structure? Because I think as long as we were opening it up, I think they were taking the opportunity to clean it up. So they took out the firing range, is in red, the range
That-
rental. Or maybe that was in there before.
If I may, Councilmember, that was to admit after February 2022, it's an effort to clean up the fee schedule since it is no longer in use.
So my feeling is the motion is really to pass the fee schedule as it's printed.
Correct. The motioner and seconder understand that?
That, it is exactly what my motion intended.
Additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien. Ask,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Kyle, thank you for your work. I know you put a lot of hard work on this and did a lot of research, and these things don't come easy, particularly when we're probably one of the first ones out of the gate establishing a fee. And I know in talking with Representative Baker, he was very excited that we were going to have a fee higher than just $100 or something like that. So I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that we have a higher fee than that. So now we'll have to see if it stands up when the legislature goes back to work. Thank you for your work. Next, we have to retroactively approve a request to submit a grant application for Safe Streets for All to the U.S. Department of Transportation. Ms. Valiant.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Yes, it was about 10 days ago that I received an email from Mr. Vogie from Bolton and Mink that the Safe Streets for All grant application was opening up, and we needed to have it in by the 15th of September. So they worked very diligently to gather all the information that you see in your packet regarding what the Safe Street application is and the map that finds that jurisdiction. One of the things to also highlight here in the application and the anticipated tasks also includes quiet zones. So I just wanted to reiterate that railroad is also in this application, so. And then, as you see, the highlighted map as to the areas that the safe zones that, or the areas that we'll be working on, of course, will actually be most of the city in those safe roads for all. So we have requested the total of $200,000 for that grant, and I'm not sure when we will hear that this was just the letter, and then hopefully we will hear back that we can apply for the entire grant. So that's where we are.
So staff is looking for a permission to submit a grant application for Safe Streets for All. Normally, as you all know, it comes to us first, but the timeline on this was so tight, we didn't have time to get in front of council prior to that. So staff moved forward with this recommendation. So
Move to approve.
Second.
motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion, those opposed? That motion passes. I thought it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, for your work on that. And Jared, thank you for bringing that to our attention so we can get that application in. Appreciate that. Next, consider setting a public hearing for special assessments for unpaid snow and ice removal charges. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you is a request to set a public hearing for October 3rd for the unpaid snow and ice removal charges. Each of the properties proposed to have a assessment against them are listed on your report in the council packet.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion does carry. Next, we have a consideration of public hearing for special assessments, unpaid weed, grass mowing, removal charges. Ms. Thompson.
Again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, request is to set a public hearing for October 3rd for the unpaid weed and grass mowing removal charges, and those properties are listed on the document before you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes as well. Next, we receive testimony for liquor license violations. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the police department recently did a compliance check at the various liquor establishments in the city of Wilmer, and there were 3 violations cited. A first violation was set against the Wilmer Baseball, doing business as Wilmer Stingers, and this is their appearances required to explain measures being taken to eliminate future violations. And again, like I said, this is their first violation. Another first violation is against Diamante Nightclub, and both parties are here tonight to address the council. And the third establishment that was non-compliant was the American Legion. This was their second violation, so they had a penalty of $1,000, and they did pay that to the city of Wilmer during the time. So at this time, I would ask that the council hear the testimony from the Stingers organization first.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Ryan Voss, co-owner of the Wilmer Stingers. I'll first give you our procedure of ID checking for beer and wine purchases at Stingers games. We have one individual that checks all IDs. We check IDs no matter what the age of our fan base is. They all get a wristband. And unfortunately, the night that the compliance check was done, the individual that's worked for us for 11 years was not at the ballpark. We did a training of an individual, of a staff member, to check the ID. Ultimately, they didn't check the ID the correct way, and we failed the compliance on that July evening. Going forward, to make this process better and for this not to happen again, we need to do a better job of having more depth within our staff that are comfortable doing the ID check. So ultimately, the failure of the ID check was somebody that was underage, looked at it. Obviously, underage is a completely different direction on the ID. They still serve the alcohol beverage, and it was a human error that was a failure in the compliance. So we need to do a better job that if we do have our full-time staff member, and we do take it very serious, and that's the reason why our staff member's with us for 11 years of the 13 years of Northwoods League Baseball here, and that we'd like to have him back each and every year to eliminate this from happening again. So,
Okay. Council, any questions? Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for being here, Ryan. So when I go there, there's someone sitting on the chair and they put a wristband.
yeah.
So who got caught then? The person selling the beer or wine in the stand then?
Yeah, so the gentleman that we have is kind of a designated ID person. That person also serves as a backup person for the beer stand that we have in that kiosk area. So what ended up happening was he was off that night, actually enjoying a picnic with his business down the line at the ballpark. We had somebody else fill in specifically to check IDs, and they looked at it the wrong way. So
So the person didn't have an ID?
didn't have it. Yeah, they handed him the ID, handed it back, didn't give him the wristband, served him the drink. So we told him he's going to have to be at every home game from now on. But we do have to add more additional staff that is familiar with it, that is comfortable with it, because it is unreasonable for us to be able to ask somebody to take on that responsibility, even though we have a member that was able to make 35 of the 36 games.
I appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
You run a pretty good outfit.
Well, we try to do it the right way, and unfortunately, this was one of those nights where we had a failure. So, thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
I think we ask this every time, but you utilize the police training for your people?
Correct.
to serve?
Yep. And, the one interesting thing with us is that we do have a beer and wine license with the city of Wilmer. Not that it's an excuse. We only use it for 30-some days out of the year. And so we have to go into another mode for June, July, and August. We're not necessarily doing this on a daily basis as a full establishment, but we still have to be able to follow the same rules and have the staff that's comfortable with it going forward.
Councilmember Ross.
Do you ever use the machines that kind of scan IDs?
Yeah, no, we haven't. And, there's some of the vendors, the beer vendors will actually have the card swipe. And now there's actually even a software as an app that you can actually take the driver's license and use that as a software piece to it, which is definitely something that we could look into, of being able to scan the ID on an individual basis.
No comments or questions? Ryan, you run a pretty tight ship over there, and it's a bit discouraging to see you in front of us. I know it's a real tough place for you to be, and it's a tough place for us to be, to have to hear from you.
Correct.
The most of us enjoy the venue that you have here in town, and we take liquor compliance very serious, and we're glad to hear that you're doing things to improve things, and we're pleased about that. But we really need to make sure that we get our continued compliance following the rules.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson.
The second, first violation there is from Diamante Nightclub, and there's someone here to present for them.
Hello, my name is Barbara Moreno. Carlos Valdovinos is the owner. He had to leave because we also run a construction company, and he has to travel 5 hours to North Dakota, so that's why he had to leave. So we did get caught serving a minor. They did pass ID check at the door. We do ID checks at the door. They were placed a minor ban. When they went to ask for an alcoholic beverage, they covered it with a sweatshirt. And that was our new bartender that was on that night. She no longer works with us. So we do compliance on ID checks to prevent this from happening. And she did a mistake, human error. And we do apologize.
Okay. She felt, is that testimony consistent with what the report states?
From the reports that I reviewed, there was no mention, and I don't know anything about covering with a sweatshirt, but they are given very specific instructions to be truthful. They carry their true ID. If they're asked their age, they say that they're 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever the case may be. That would be typically out of character for them to pull the sweatshirt over their wrist. In this particular instance, they were ID'd by security at the door. They were ID'd a second time by somebody at a window. They received a wristband at the window. They went to the bar, received the beer. They were paid for it. They were served the beer. However, briefly after being served, security did come to them, said that they believed they were underage, refunded their money, took their drinks away, and that's when officers, they had already called officers to come into the bar. So by that standard, they were served. There was an exchange of money for the beer.
Okay. Council questions? Councilmember Nelson.
I'll just ask the same question of you. Do you use the police department training for your
Yes, we do.
staff?
Like I did state, she was a new employee, and she quit she was let go shortly after. She didn't want the training.
Okay,
She was just scared of it already.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, we don't want to see that happen again. You're a good establishment in town, and we know that you guys do a good business there. And so we need to make sure we don't have that again.
Yep, we try to comply, and we're fully on board calling the police department when we do need, and we're we're embarrassed it happened also, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have a consideration of an authorization for a request for proposal for job classification and scoring. Ms. Zietzema.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So in your packet, there was just a draft of what I would like to get some authorization for a consideration from you guys to particularly go out and look for someone to come in and help us with a job classification and job description scoring type. We had a salary survey that was done, I understand, about 2017 or so. It was implementation. Some of the things that the comp plan that the city was trying to do at that point in time requested or required that this would need to be done, and it was never done. And so I'm asking for help getting that done to try to move most of our staff to a citywide base pay scale and for pay equity internally. So just asking for your help with that tonight.
Council, what are your wishes?
I would make a motion to authorize Human Resource Director Luann Sietsma to send out requests for proposal to do job descriptions, scoring, and classification under contract for the city of Wilmer.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Just a question and clarification on the term classification versus the levels that we have, or is that what it's referring to?
Same term. Yep.
Same term?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Additional comments or questions? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work on that. I know that's something that you've been working on for a while, and I appreciate that. Ms. Valiant, I'm not finding my script.
No. You need to do your preliminary levy. Oh.
Thank you. So this will be the mayor's 2023 budget presentation. As mayor of the city of Wilmer, tonight I will be delivering my final budget proposal to the city council as required by charter for the 2023 fiscal year. Each year, cities are required to submit a preliminary budget and proposed tax levy to the county by the end of September. After the preliminary levy is approved, council cannot increase the levy, but it can only decrease, with the final approval presented during the Truth in Taxation public hearing December 5th of this year. Tonight requires that the mayor submit to council the budget for the ensuing fiscal year, describe any proposed financial policy changes, reasons for any changes, and summarize the city's debt position and all other information requested by council. The 2023 budget that I am proposing addresses the city's mission statement of providing responsible municipal services in an open, effective, and efficient manner to all citizens while achieving Wilmer's community values. Each year, the city budgets for the general fund, special revenue fund, debt service fund, enterprise fund, and a 5-year capital improvement plan that was approved per charter by the Planning Commission. Last year, I proposed 2 major financial policy changes. The first was to finance street debt for 15 years instead of 10, and to finance debt service for the city hall over the next 30 years. This year, I continue that proposal with an increase of 2 mills dedicated to street improvements for an estimated revenue of approximately $700,000, and 3 mills for the city hall bonding for an estimated revenue of $335,000. The city's 2023 increased tax capacity will fund the general fund with no operational changes. I am also proposing no operational changes in the wastewater treatment fund or in the special revenues fund. Under the American Recovery Program, the city of Wilmer is expected to receive a total of $2.171 million from the American Rescue Act plan. To date, council has committed a total of $1.1 million towards employee mental health, daycare, software replacement, and water infrastructure upgrades. Council and staff continue to work on committing ARPA funds to long-term projects. All funding needs to be committed to projects by the end of 2024, with projects completed no later than 2026. The debt service funds, the city's debt position at the end of 2021 was slightly over 95 million. 60% of the debt is carried by the wastewater plant and paid by sewer charges, 19% for infrastructure, street, water, and sewer improvements, 19% for local option sales tax projects, and 2% for tax increment financing notes. Earlier, City Auditor Dave Early remarked that the city's debt service has been reduced by the retiring of Rice Memorial's $34.8 million in debt. Street improvements will continue as a top priority in the 2023 budget. Later in October, the council will be reviewing the robotics street analysis program as well. Capital improvement plan. Tonight I'm presenting a balanced budget with $1.88 million available for capital improvements and vehicle replacement. We continue to look at electric hybrid vehicles, but at this time, truck manufacturers haven't built the type of vehicle needed to replace, so we'll continue including research. Hybrid electric vehicle replacement with each year's budget. Capital improvements for the wastewater department include design, construction, updates to lift stations 7 and 8 at Eagle Lake, along with roof replacement at the old wastewater treatment plant for an estimated cost of $2.27 million. I am proposing capital improvements to the airport to correct drainage and pond retention issues, update the septic system along with much needed updating of flooring and furniture. Street improvement remains a priority with an estimated bonding of $9 million for 2023. The downtown street light project will be completed next year with a total investment from the city of $566,000. For the 2023 budget, I'm proposing a 6 mil tax rate increase with a dedicated 4 mils for additional street, debt service, and continued funding for City Hall service at 3 mils. The general fund operating needs continue to be fully funded by the city's net tax capacity increase. The current 2022 city tax rate of 46.533 would be increased to the proposed 52.533 or 12.89% for the city property tax portion only. With that, for a more detailed presentation of the budget, I'll turn it over to Mr. Okens. At the conclusion of Mr. Okens' comments, I will see if City Administrator Valiant has anything to add. I will then stand for any questions from council after those two presentations have been completed. And then at that time, the council will be asked to ratify the levy amount, the preliminary levy amount for 2023. With that, Mr. Okens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As the mayor has spoken tonight, I'm going to talk to the tax levy increase and some comparative numbers. And I don't know if you can see the screen, but I know it wasn't showing up before. But on tonight, the presentation for the mayor was asking the council to set the preliminary levy. There will be no real action on the overall budget, but only on the tax levy. The levy tonight that when set by the council can be lowered at their truth and taxation hearing that will be held in December, but it cannot be raised. The levy has to be certified to the county by September 30th, leaving and allowing the council the months of October and November to review the budget numbers as presented by the mayor, make any changes, and then take action at the December meeting. So the action tonight in setting the levy will be to set a maximum levy that can be lowered again, but that cannot be raised after this point. Some tax comparison and capacity levels. The city has experienced growth, and I apologize for the being able to see these numbers. They're really small, but the amount of tax capacity growth that the city has incurred is two factors. New construction is a large portion of that, and then increased value is the other portion. The tax capacity, and these are estimates obtained from Candido County at this point. But last year for 2022 tax capacity was 15.8 million, and it is estimated to go up to roughly 17.5 million for taxable 2023. That's a 10.5% increase in increased value and tax capacity. Again, that consists of two items: the new construction growth that we've experienced and increased values due to market conditions. The next slide, you'll see there, again, the mayor talked about the city's portion of the tax capacity or tax rate is one portion. We've talked about this before, in that Candioi County and the Independent School District 347 will be holding hearings as well. That they will be holding in December as well. Of the total tax capacity or tax rate that citizens of Wilmer experience, roughly 36% of that. So for every dollar that a homeowner is paying, 36 cents of that, 37 cents of that comes to the city of Wilmer. The rest goes to Candioi County, which is about 45 cents of every dollar, and the school district, which is about 17 cents. The remaining is the other ancillary taxing jurisdictions of the Housing Redevelopment Authority in mid-Minnesota. So for every tax dollar that the citizens of Wilmer pay to the city or to on their property taxes, again, 37 cents of that comes to the city of Wilmer. The mayor mentioned that the 52.5 mills that is being proposed is broken down, as you see on this next slide, 45.5 for operating costs, which includes the 1.8 roughly for capital improvements. 3 mills is going for debt service of the proposed City Hall when it is determined by the council of what they want to do on that project. And again, in your committee action form, that's based on a 30-year debt service on a $10 million project. And so, and then additional 2 mills being added to the street for a total of 4 mills being proposed for street work, and that would total the 52.5 mills. Comparative numbers, and again, we are working on obtaining the 2022 tax rates, but we do have tax rates for 2021, and this is for regional centers that we have compared in the past. You'll see there they range from 78 mills down to roughly 40.5 mills. The city of Wilmer is the lowest of all regional centers that we do comparative information with. We do look at their services that they provide, as well as if they have a local option sales tax and those types. But in 2021, Wilmer was at that point lowest of all regional centers. We also did some comparative 2021 tax rates of neighboring county seats from Granite Falls at 110 mills, again down to Wilmer, lowest there of 40.5 mills. And with the projected increase of 6 mills to the 46 present in 2022 rates, Wilmer would still be the lowest with these other communities. And we're again obtaining the 22 to see if theirs have increased as well. And then the third comparative chart that we have here is for Candioi County communities. These are the 2022 tax rates, again ranging from 151 mills down to the 22.4 mills for Regal. Regal is in Stearns County and Candioi County. Their tax levy is really small again, so Wilmer is at the lowest for those Candioi County communities as well. The mayor talked about the breakdown of the levy for operating the 7.9 million, roughly a little under 700,000 for streets, and 524 for the city hall debt. So about 86% is for the operating. The remaining amount is for future street debt as well as city hall debt. The effects of the 6 mil proposal on a residential property valued at $250,000 would be approximately $153. On a $350,000 home, it would be approximately $225, and a $450,000 home of $261. Again, these are estimates based on values that we have gotten from the county to this point. They may fluctuate slightly if there's a decrease in the value or an increase in the tax capacity values. Commercial property of $1 million would see roughly a $1,300 increase, and industrial property of $5.5 million would see $6,600. Again, this is for the city portion only. Again, of every dollar that is paid for the taxpayer, again, about 36 cents comes to the city of Wilmer. With that, Mr. Mayor, could answer any questions, or it's the evaluation of the comparative numbers.
Okay. With that, I'll see if Ms. Valiant has anything she wants to add at this point.
Yes, we put this budget together, and I know it appears to be higher than normal, but it's really not, past has not really kept up with everything. And we still have health insurance. We do not know what our health insurance rate is because they do not have to provide those numbers until late September. And we are in the process also of going through union negotiations, so we will not know what our wages and health insurance increases will be until later this year, if we even get completely done with the labor negotiations.
Okay. So with that, Mr. Olkins, Ms. Valiant, and myself will stand for questions that the council may have in regards to the resolution. Again, the resolution, historically, the city of Wilmer has adopted the resolution or the levy at this meeting and then has held that pretty stand firm. The budget that you see in front of you tonight gives you the opportunity to manipulate that budget how you as council feel you'd like to see that budget hammered out. And so we know that levy number is probably higher than you're comfortable with, but there are also some areas then where you as council could make some adjustments to that if you chose to, or if you left it the way it is, then you would start correcting this downfall that we have. I think the important piece that Mr. Olkins pointed out, and this is what you guys asked for at the work session when we talked about the budget, is you wanted to see other regional centers. You wanted to see where we compared with the county and in the school district, which Mr. Olkins provided to you. But then you also specifically requested to see what Candioi County communities had. And so that last one is a number that you probably haven't saw before, but you saw the other numbers in the past. But, Mr. Olkins, Ms. Valiant, and myself listened to what you guys said at the work session, so we included that additional data that you had asked us to do, something that we hadn't done. The other thing is that we funded all of the requests from council. So council, if you sent any requests into Mr. Olkins or Ms. Valiant or myself, we did fund those requests, and so those are also included in the budget. I did have sidebar conversations with a couple council members that I think I'd like to put this in the budget, but there were no formal submissions to any of the three of us asking for us to submit that into the budget or to add that into the budget, so we didn't do that. The other thing you'll see on the capital item is that you asked at that meeting to have the numbers put back in for the auditorium, and you'll see that those numbers are back in on capital. The other thing you'll see is that Mr. Manzer did remove those vehicles at your direction from the work session. He had 2 vehicles in there that he wanted to replace this year. At your direction at the work session, he pulled those 2 vehicles out. So those 2 vehicles are not in there. Those 2 vehicles will have to be funded in future budgets. So with that, we will stand for questions. And you can address them either to Mr. Olkins, Ms. Valiant, or myself. Councilman Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This would just be a timeline or procedural question. How far out are we from when we would then begin discussions regarding specific line items?
Later in the agenda, you see that we have a council workshop. October 31st is what we're requesting. So that's the date that we would be looking at the budget to start with. And then, of course, we can continue through the process also in November. So we have until December 6th or the end of November to come up with the final budget and levy number.
Okay, may I? Thank you for your work and effort, everyone involved putting this together. It's nice and thorough, and I was pleased to see some of the information added that we had talked about at that retreat, hadn't gotten forgotten about or whatnot, because it's real important to remember, because a lot of times you will hear people say things about taxes and what Wilmer's taxes are and whatnot, but it's not always the truth, and sometimes it's easy for people to forget that sometimes it's just hearsay, and so it's good to have that actually in paper or in writing in front of us to see for the community. Also, I appreciate the idea that although it seems as though there's increase and it seems steep and hefty, anybody who's done this for any amount of time knows that there's also a cost to not taxing enough and not doing enough with your money in terms of deferred maintenance, critical infrastructure, keeping up with those types of things. That can lead to significant problems down the road, very costly problems. And so although I'm very pro like anti-tax and all that stuff, whatever it means, I do think that there is an appropriate and healthy way to go about doing that within a budget. And I believe that this budget is aiming in the right direction, and I appreciate the opportunity to hone in on those key individual items that we think that we can maybe polish or whatnot, but having those discussions is healthy. So thank you.
Additional comments or questions for staff or myself? In the past, again, a process that I started that no other mayor has ever done is provide to you a written document that has all of the budget numbers and everything. It's in your Dropbox. It's in there today, correct, Steve?
It will be in there tomorrow, Mr. Mayor. It was not put in there for, based on the meeting that we were having this morning, so.
No,
it is.
it's in there.
Is it?
It got in there
It was
this
entered in there?
afternoon after
Okay,
you gave it
it's
to
in
us.
there then, I guess, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Sorry.
So it's already in your Dropbox, but if you want a hard copy of it, get a hold of the finance director or Ms. Valiant, and they will get you a hard copy. In the past, we made hard copies to hand out tonight after the presentation, and then a lot of them just got turned back in. So we killed a lot of trees for nothing because you would ask to have them, and so we had them prepared for this meeting. So it's in your Dropbox, but if you want a hard copy, because some of you like hard copies, we will make that available to you. Okay? With that, I would entertain a motion to adopt the preliminary 2023 levy.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. What's that dollar amount again? It's a 52.
2.5.
The resolution is in your packet, I believe, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, then I'd have to find it.
The dollar levy is $9,188,990.
And that is the motion or in the second or in agreement of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Any discussion in regards to the dollar amount? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Thank you all for your support. And special thanks to Steve, Kyle, and Leslie. I know that Kyle, Leslie, and Steve put a ton of hours into this budget. And last year, I think I met with the staff twice, and I think this year, I think it was about 6 times. So we wanted to get everything that you guys had asked for at that work session. I kept coming back saying, well, Councilmember so-and-so said this, and Councilmember so-and-so said that. And so I think we captured everything that you asked us for. So thank you guys for your hard work. Appreciate that. Next, Ms. Valiant.
Yes.
Set a work session for Monday, October 31st.
Thank you. As I had remarked earlier, we'd like to set a work session for October 31st. That work session then would include the review of the budget along with capital improvements, and it would also include the 5-year capital plan, which is part of that robotics, and you'll be able to then review the 5-year plan off of that robotics and see how our streets are graded and such, and so it's very fascinating where our percentages lie. Also with that, I think that there may be a couple other things that come up, so I would like to have this, because it is Halloween, I would like to start this process early during the day or early afternoon so that we could complete it by probably 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
So start at 4 at the latest or earlier.
Council, are you willing to do that? Councilman Ross?
Is it possible to do it on November 1st?
Any issues? No, I think it could be done.
Probably better. I won't be able to get off work on a Monday.
Okay. Is that what you would like to do? Does that work?
November 1st,
November 1st, and you want to do it 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock, so we could get done by 6, 7 at the latest.
Okay, what,
6:30. I won't be able to get off work.
Council, what do you want to do?
We may not be able to accommodate everybody on a non-night. Is there anybody else who has an issue with November 1st?
Just a comment from what you talked about us doing. It feels like we'll need a few hours to do that.
Yes, that's why I would
I
like
don't
to
think
like,
starting at 6:30 would be helpful.
No,
to do
it'll
this
be-
work session.
it'll be at least 10 o'clock, probably at the latest, or later, for the discussions, because I would like not to have to rush through those discussions. I'd like Jared to walk through the robotics plan and how we're moving forward with that, and what the need is, and how we're matching that with the utilities also.
What time would you like to start on the 1st?
4, 5, 4,
Or 4?
4.
Four, it works, I think 4 would work the best, because then we could have, of course, supper brought in and try to end by 6:37.
Okay. And Councilmember Butterfield, we'll have to catch you up on it.
Well, I'll just, can I submit my stuff in beforehand?
Yes,
Okay.
or sit down and meet with either Kyle, with either
Me.
Leslie, Kyle, or Steve.
Okay.
Meet with any of the, is that okay with you?
Yes,
Valiant?
that works.
Okay, just meet with any of the 3 of them, and let them know what your requests are.
Okay.
Okay, but then we still want you to show up when you can.
Yeah.
So, because we're not going to be taking any action that night, but we're taking discussion.
Okay.
So, and I think we've done a pretty good job of listening to what you've asked us to do. I don't think we missed anything. November 1st, 4 PM
Yes,
for a work session
thank you.
at the fire station.
At the fire station, yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
At the last meeting, you guys had set your next meeting to talk about the street assessments for October 11th. I had said at that time I was planning on being out of town. I have received numerous calls from the public urging me to, whatever your plans were for the 11th, make sure you cancel them and be at that meeting. So I will be canceling my plans, and I will be at the meeting on the 11th. I told you before I would not be there, but I will be there. So with that, the next item on the agenda is the evaluation and performance of the city administrator under Minnesota Statute 13D.05 sub 3A. The council will go into closed session for this evaluation. The council will not take any action other than to adjourn the meeting at the conclusion of the city administrator's performance evaluation. If you're not involved in the evaluation of the city administrator, we would ask you to leave when the meeting is closed. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to close the meeting for the issue of conducting the performance evaluation of the city administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Kyle, can you go back and just make sure that